So hello, hi Vicky. I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Claudia Chapman. I'm Reiki life coach, healer, intuitive, and women's empowerment coach. And I'm starting this series with the amazing Vikki Koshoni today, who is my first amazing guest and very good friend of mine. And we are going to be talking about things that maybe we've all been thinking about, but maybe we don't always want to present. So the idea of this podcast is called The Awakened Healers and Talking Truth Bombs, talking about where we are heading, what we have been doing to look after ourselves during the last few years, and what solutions we can find to give us the best holistic health that we can possibly have. So with no further ado, I'd like to invite Victoria just to say hi and tell us maybe just who she is and what she stands for.
Hi, I love it when you call me Victoria. I prefer Vicky just because it's less syllables, to be fair. I am... that is actually the hardest question in the world. Do you know that? That is the hardest question in the world, because I'm going to segue into some stuff I want to talk about later, but who really knows who they are anyway? So let me give you bullet points. I'm a mother of 3. My eldest is 17, going to be 18 this year. I homeschool all of my children at the moment. I'm ethical, organic, vegan, and that was because of health reasons. And now I understand that it's a very, very important lifestyle change that I did, because my whole family are now vegan. My dog is vegan, and we seem to have gotten rid of so many ailments and things out of our lives. I'm an African dance fitness instructor, one of only 3 in the UK trained by Kukua herself. Kukua is the name of a professor of dance from Ghana who's brought this system for fitness and awesomeness. What else about me? I talk a lot.
Yeah, that's good. We like the fact that you talk a lot. So I met Vicky through the Holistic Therapist Network that I started in 2000, I think it was 18 or 19, which was an amazing year, and lots of holistic therapists joined together to share their ideas and just, help each other and support each other in their businesses. And Vicky was a key player, and a key player in my life, very much so, before she moved away from London. And I always remember the one time that Vicky came round and I said to her, right, let's do gut health, clear out my house of all the chemicals. So we literally went through all the cupboards in my house, cleared out everything we could possibly find that had nasty chemicals in, and just chucked it all in the bin, didn't we? And it really was an amazing day, and really an amazing eye-opener. I knew about chemical-based products, but I'd kind of slid into just going with the mainstream on that for a few years, and Vicky really showed me that I could get rid of all of those products. And also you introduced me to the doTERRA oils, and going back to using essential oils and using those instead of mainstream, chemicals. So I stopped using ibuprofen and paracetamol and antihistamines, and my health just improved so much because of Vicky. I've always called you Victoria.
Thank you.
It's kind of like a teachery thing.
I kind of like it though. No, please continue. I actually like
okay. So I was absolutely blessed by you, and we had many conversations and many exchanges. And I think what really stands out for me about you, Vicky, is the fact that you stand in your power, you stand in your truth, and you stand in your sovereignty. You don't just spiel the bullshit. You don't just tell people what to do. In fact, you don't do that at all. And that's why I'm inviting you to do so. You have all the knowledge and all the power to live in a very holistic way. And that's what I want to talk to you today about. So, the one thing that stands out for me that's been coming up during the pandemic is that people are starting to decide to home educate their children. So maybe we can start there. Lots of people have been talking about it, but you were already home educating your children for various reasons. So maybe could you presence and sort of say, what you feel about the benefits of homeschooling your children right now?
Okay, so I started thinking about homeschooling just because I noticed the pattern in the curriculum, and it just was so repetitive. It's very repetitive. And they didn't seem to do any, they didn't emphasize life skills, just life skills. And then as time went on, they were cutting down the playtime more and more and more and more and more. And it just didn't feel right, but everyone's doing it, so it must be great. What made me notice these things more is because, actually, thinking about it, before, I think actually when my first child was about 5, yes, I decided to do a Montessori teacher's course. So doing this course made me hyper aware of things that children do, because really as a Montessori teacher, you're not supposed to teach them anything. You're supposed to guide them to teach themselves. I was like, I quite like that idea, actually. So I ended up not being a Montessori teacher in the end because I got pregnant and blah, 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 blah. So I ended up being a Montessori childminder instead. But what it did for me was make me hyper aware of all the little developmental steps and notice things that my child does, be able to understand the way my child is thinking, because it's not child psychology, which I had done at university, but yeah, it gives you little bits and bobs of information, but we're all so different. And this is one of the things as well. Everything that we're going to talk about, I know it, is going to come back to this one word, fear. I know it. We're so scared to fail our children. We're so scared to do everything wrong that we will literally just do as we're told. Whereas when I started thinking about the schooling system and thinking, okay, so why am I unhappy with it? And started doing a little bit of research, it all really came about. This formal schooling system was because of war and the need to have adults signed up to fight and kill other people. So they needed somewhere to put the children, a lot of children at the same time. So there's so many things happened in that industrial time. They took the parents out of the house. They took the father figure out of the house. They put all of the children into just like a cloning sheep educational system, which did wonderful things. However, our individual differences mean that the system just doesn't work for everyone. Anyway, other countries, look at other countries. You don't go to a formal school till you're 7 years old. You're educated at home. So it's really, though, it's a Western system. It's not a human system of education. There are so many different ways to be human. There are so many different ways to rear your children that I think it was mostly the Western system I had a problem with. And then there was stuff about Black History Month. There are so many things I could go into about Black History Month. 1 month, really? But I'm not going to go into those things. And again, that was repetitive. So what ended up happening is I was doing a lot of education at home myself, because there were so many things that I wanted him to know about that he was interested in knowing about, but he wasn't getting a chance to learn about, had to sit still, had to do this, had to do that. And I think there are so many children who don't want to sit still, but they're genius at something, but it just needs to be found. But okay, we don't have the resources. We don't have a one-to-one teacher-child system. We can't really do that right now. We are supposed to do so much education at home, but hey, your mom and dad have got to go to work. Yeah. So the system that we're in kind of perpetuates some really dissatisfactory, in my eyes, this is all my opinion, things. So as I was doing so much education at home myself, and just a few things started happening where I'd done a certain amount of research, which made me think, I could probably do this, I mean, how hard could it be? I mean, gosh, at this point in time, I'd done so much research. I'd done a Montessori teacher course. I was feeling quite good about myself. And I thought, okay, do you know what? This fear thing is going to stop me. And it stopped me for a little while. And then there was some racism stuff and some other stuff, and the stuff that I chalked up to stuff I can do nothing about. However, pretty sure that's my child there. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to be doing a bit more than just sighing and chalking it up to stuff I can do nothing about. So when I did look into it, it's actually quite straightforward in this country to deregister your child. And we were visited from a lady from the council. She just wanted to make sure we were providing an education. She chatted to Jaden. She visited us maybe 3 times in the whole time. And that was it. She was satisfied with her conversations with my son that, yes, he was being provided an education. He learned so much, to the extent that when we did move from London and came to this town that I grew up in, and he applied to the college for the course that he wanted to do, he basically covered the whole curriculum anyway, and just wanted to do the course because he had access to the equipment, because he was into videos and cameras and all this amazing, expensive £10,000 equipment he was going to have access to. So yeah, lockdown paid to that. However, he's taught himself guitar. He can play the ukulele, electric guitar, he's learning acoustic, he writes poetry. It's been a pleasure, and I'm fully aware that there are so many people not able to take the opportunity to help their child in this way, for whatever reason, right? So I've got a Post-it note on my computer saying here, recognize help and accept help and take opportunities and do things you don't want to do. So I got rid of the fear of taking my child out of school and did it myself. And now all 3 of my children are homeschooled, and there are so many resources that actually, all the resources that teachers have access to, I have access to. So really, because of my situation where I've arranged things, there was nothing stopping me. So that's why I did that. And it's wonderful and it's amazing. And I have an amazing relationship with my children now, which I think is something that, again, really messes up. It really discombobulates the whole developmental process, because parents have to go out to work. You don't end up in a relationship with your child. Because what used to happen was, and I think that the pandemic and making people work remotely has turned everything on its head. However, I'm fully of the belief that cataclysmic events are so educational if you're paying attention, and if you have the ability to take the opportunities that then present themselves. Because forest fires are actually very good for the soil, for example. You know, a whole area will be decimated. However, what then comes out of the soil is so nutrient dense by that. You know, it's literally a natural cycle. But there are natural cycles that we're not able to take advantage of because the parents have to go out to work. They're not at home to do that home schooling. Then the children spend so much time with their peers instead of their parents, which means they end up being peer attached rather than parental attached. You know, the Gabor Mate talks a lot about this. He really helped me cement my determination and motivation to really get this done, because I could see little lights going out in his eyes. I could see exactly what Gabor Mate was talking about when it comes to peer attachment. Because then we have teenagers, and everyone has these horrible stereotypes about teenagers. And I hate it. I hate the way people talk about teenagers, because they're such a unique, they're almost not human, because their brains don't look like adult brains and their brains don't look like a child brain at all. They're going through this intense transformation with the chemicals in their body, the way their brain is connecting, everything. Yet they've become teenagers and we say, oh, off you go then, bye. And let them they're not little adults. They're not. They're teenagers. They're a very specific type of human. And that is the time they need us most. And that is the time that we cut that umbilical cord, get rid of the anchor or whatever you call it, nautical terms, I don't know, and set them adrift. So
could you just summarize sort of, because I want to do actually so many different talks with you. This is a sort of limited sort of half an hour, 45-minute conversation. We'll do no, fine. We'll do a whole conversation around home education. But for now, could I just ask you, what advice would you give to those parents who are watching, who have been considering, because of the pandemic, have been considering taking their children out of school and home educating, but are a little bit fearful themselves about doing that because they don't think they have the skills. Do you have any advice for those parents?
Yeah, feel the fear and do it anyway. I don't teach my children maths. I can't teach my children maths. And I don't want to teach my children maths. However, the resources are available. So humans are amazingly intelligent, and we've created all of these tools, and we just need to use them. All of the resources are there. We use a wonderful tool called IXL, and it has the English and maths curriculum all the way to college, I think. You can literally do it for year 1, year 2, year 3, and they use that. When it gets a bit harder, I might have to get some extra help in. I don't know. So far, it's okay. There are tutors. There are so many tutors now available, and you can do so many things online. In my eyes, what I'm doing, I'm not trying to, because it really depends on what your motivation is for homeschooling. I wasn't trying to follow the current curriculum because I'm not into it. There are so many reasons, and we can talk about that later.
So we can. We do a whole thing on it. Yeah. The
way I'm doing it is seeing what my child is motivated and interested in, and doing that.
Yeah. Right.
And it's not scary, and it's beautiful, and you end up with you understand your child so much, and it's so essential that just because this child is walking around outside of your body doesn't mean they're not still attached to you forever and ever. And it's beautiful.
Great. So yeah, like I say, we can talk so extensively on home education. So just to go back to kind of you and what are the things that you do differently? So besides home education, so I've talked about the fact that, you live a holistic lifestyle, that, you taught me and helped me to clear out all those chemicals in my house and use essential oils more for my health. So maybe you can tell us all the things that you do. So, okay, so it's quite hard to kind of go through all the things that you do, but maybe we can talk about health and how do you approach health differently, and how do you think that that's relevant, especially now after the pandemic? How do we need to be using the knowledge that you have, Vikki, already? How can you advise people who are watching this to deal with their health differently? What would be the first piece of advice that you would give in terms of that?
Don't outsource your health. So I don't know what the opposite of that is, because I'm trying to remove certain words from my vocabulary unless they're absolutely necessary. I don't like saying don't do this. I'd rather say do this, but I don't know what the opposite of that is. But don't outsource your health. So our individual differences mean that what's good for you, Claudia, is not good for me.
Right. But what do you do, Vikki? So people want to hear what you do. Yeah.
X, Y, and Z, which means you have to be the expert on your own body.
Great.
Which means one of the best things you can do is do a poop test. Most definitely. Because I don't know if any Star Trek fans out here, but unless someone invents a medical tricorder which can scan your body and tell you exactly what to do, testing your poop is one of the best ways to figure out what your microbiome is doing, because your microbiome is in here and it houses 70, at least what we know of so far, % of our immune system. So we need to keep that healthy. However, we hardly even think about what it's doing. Some people don't even poo every day.
Right.
I love to talk about poo, and everyone should get over it and talk about poo, because it's one of the best indicators that your body is healthy or not. There's even a stool chart that you can put on your, I love they call it stools, a feces chart that you can put in your bathroom, and it has a gradient of, you know what, if your poop looks like this, you should do this. If your poop looks like that, that's perfect. If your poop looks like this, ooh, maybe you need a bit more water, for example. How many people like look in the toilet after they've pooped? So there's a place you can send it off to. You apply for the kits, you pay for the kit. It comes with very clear instructions. Get a little bit of poop, and you put it in a test tube thingy. I'm sure people are used to testing themselves for all sorts of things now because everything's online. And you send it away, and there's an app you can get, and they send you a full the information they send you is ridiculously thorough about what vitamins you're not getting, what bacteria are colonizing your gut, because some bacteria are very good for you and very helpful, and some bacteria are very bad for you and it will help you make bad decisions, like eat 6 Mars bars. Now, literally, our microbiome is so important when it comes to decision making.
Right.
So when it comes to nutrition, it will literally make you make bad decisions. For example, I've found out that no matter how many B6 vitamins, I can't remember, eating, I wasn't absorbing them because of this other thing I needed to eat. The chemistry of the human body is so fantastic. So you need to figure out how your individual factory works. And that's the best thing.
So for people who are watching this and think, okay, I'll do the poop test. I'll put my hands up. I still haven't done the poop test. But what sort of things would you tell them that they can do right now while they're waiting for their poop test to come, and that is functional? So obviously poop testing is something that functional doctors would request. So we can ear point people to people like Mark Hyman and others if you want to know about functional doctors and functional medicine. But what they focus on is excuse me, what you eat. Yes, so what you eat, what you put in your body. So can you kind of just maybe give some pointers on where people can start? So I know, for instance, that you filter your water. So you think about even down to water and what you put in your body just with water. So what else can you, can you do vitamin wise? What vitamins should people be taking? Should they be taking it in tincture form because it absorbs in the body quicker than pills? And the fact that you mentioned, you have a vegan diet. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Okay, so apparently most of the Western population are very much deficient in B12 and vitamin D anyway, literally. So you can get those tested, or you can just look at what you're eating. And I mean, a lot of people eat bread and cereals. They're fortified with B12 anyway. However, apparently we're all vitamin B12 deficient and D deficient. So that could be something you could look into because it's very easy to supplement. Yeah, water is apart from oxygen, the thing we need. I know for a fact there's someone who water fasted for a full year. They were morbidly obese though. And, when you have that kind of motivation, you will take any help you can get. I know that they fasted for a year. They didn't eat for a year. They didn't die. Fasting, especially when you're ill, especially when you're on your menstrual cycle, is very, very good for you. You get into a nice little reset for your body. The reason I went vegan was because of depression, chronic pain, fibromyalgia, which seems to have really gone from my body now, apart from the occasional twinge, but it's nothing like before because I have a standing desk because it was difficult to sit down, but actually having a standing desk is actually much better for your health. Water, I do filter my water because the way that our water is treated, yeah, brilliant, amazing. However, there are extra things that are getting into our system, our water filtration systems now, because we take so many medications, and a lot of them do come out in our urine, which goes into the system. Systems haven't necessarily been updated for a long time and don't know how to purify these things out. So when it comes to countries like America, there are definitely studies, you can look this up, about how the hormones from hormone treatments that people are taking that are then urinating out into the filtration, the water system, that are going out into the natural environment, are messing with the hormones and development of creatures like frogs. So
yeah, and turning them to females, aren't they?
Yeah, not taking any chances with that one. I have a filter system that you only have to clean once a year. The filters last for 11 years, and it even takes things like chlorine and fluoride out of the water. Fluoride being a neurotoxin.
Right. Okay. Again, this is something, you know, we're going to have we'll probably do a whole conversation on, you know, each of these subjects. We will break down further for people, but this is, as I say, you know, an introduction to you and what you do, and these conversations. So that's really interesting. And one thing I just want to presence as well is that, you know, when you talk about autoimmune diseases, etc., etc., we're talking about inflammation in the body. And again, you know, pointing to Mark Hyman, you know, he talks a lot about the different things and what we should be putting in our body to reduce inflammation. And just to also say that I think both me and Vikki would probably agree that inflammation is the difficulty that people have. That's, you know, autoimmune diseases are created by inflammation, and it's to do with gut health. And our gut health is the most important thing that we can be doing for ourselves right now, especially during times of viruses that are floating around. And I don't know if you noticed, but I found this Ayurvedic post last night that I reposted, and it said about, you know, drinking cinnamon and taking vitamin C and taking vitamin D. And interestingly, I recently had COVID, but I didn't know. And I wonder if it's because of all the things that I do, you know, on top of the energy work, etc. Who knows? We'll never know until later on. But we are just kind of pointing here to people to have solutions to maybe to start to think about things that they might not have thought about before in their general health. And we need to be looking at our lifestyles as a holistic lifestyle. So what we eat, what we drink, how we exercise, our mindset. So Vikki mentioned Gabor Mate. She also pointed me, you know, to Gabor Mate back in 2019, and I haven't stopped with him because, you know, he talks a lot about mindset, and that's a whole other conversation, but that is also something we, you know, need to be presencing, that our mindset is really important. But our mindset also comes from what we put in our body, and Vikki is really aware of what we put in our body, what we put in our gut, what we put in our solar plexus has a reflection and is completely connected to the way that we think, and vice versa. So it's all the things. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the fact that you have decided, I know that you've bought this beautiful house in Yorkshire, and you've kind of, you know, got your family there now, and you're growing vegetables. Is that right? Have you started growing?
I haven't started growing anything yet. I was doing it, but not here yet. I haven't even started to tackle the garden.
Okay, but that would be the next thing. So I remember when you bought the plot, it was something that was in your mind. So with the pandemic, lots of people are starting to think about how they can live differently, right? So, you know, I do think that you know, that you're starting to do the things that other people want to do, and you're already doing them. And that's why it's really exciting talking to you, Vikki, because, you know, people want to change the way they live. People want to be getting back into the earth. People want to be growing their own food. They want to be getting back into community, and they want to know, how can we take those first steps in order to do that? So, you know, it's really nice to kind of have you here telling people just a little bit about how you live your lifestyle, you know, without too much dictation. So the next thing I want to ask you then is, why did you go into becoming a African dance teacher? What inspired you? What do you get out of it? And how is it making, and what is the change is it making, you know, what changes is it having on you and your family now that you're doing this?
That is not a short answer.
Well, a little bit short, because we've got to get this on YouTube, and I think it has to be 45 minutes max, so maybe.
Okay, so I'm going to bullet point it. So fibromyalgia. Okay.
Autoimmune disease.
Disease. The only thing I was offered was antidepressants. I'm told I should just go home, there's no cure. Inherited from my grandmother. We need to talk about ancestral lines at some point. That's very important.
Yeah, that's another whole conversation.
Whole bloody mindedness that made me think, I don't think so, I'm going to do it myself. Started the research, did it myself, cured myself. Okay. Realized that, because, you know, when you start researching, you go down all sorts of rabbit holes, that there were so many more things I could have control over, because I think the lack of control is what makes us have so much fear, and we spin with it and apply it to everything. So I realized there was so much I could have control over not just my body environment, my home environment, right? My microbiome environment, my mind environment. I was like, all right. So what I've been doing is tackling those, and as many of those as I can, one by one, so that it's like it's just a de-stress of your life when you realize how many things you actually have control over. You see, you have control over what you put in your mouth. You have control over what you put on your skin. You have control over the words that you speak even. You have control over the thoughts that you have. You have control over how many times you smile every day. You have control over how many times you poop every day. So
how does the dance kind of,
yeah, that's what you were talking about.
Formulate, yeah.
Right.
How does the dance,
there you go. Thank you. Okay.
Help with that.
Then we were locked down. And because I was moving to Hull to have community, because I wasn't finding what I wanted in London necessarily. Okay. I've got my auntie over there, my cousin over there. Like literally Hull is so small where I am now. I have so much of my maternal family here. Lockdown, you're not having any parties, you're not getting to know anyone. We were like, oh my God, now what? Literally move to Newtown, don't even. Okay, found this guy on Instagram who, because of lockdown, couldn't move back to his house in Kenya, which was his plan. And he started a 21-day self-love program. And it was £1 a day. I thought, 21 quid, I can afford that. I'm not doing anything, am I? Started his program. And the idea of it was to create a love service being something you give, expecting nothing in return, because that's what love is. Right. So I was like, okay, because on my health journey, I'd gotten into fitness, taekwondo, became a Beachbody coach. Beachbody is just an online fitness thing. So I was very much into fitness. So I was like, okay, well, I could do a fitness thing. So I went on Instagram Live every weekday at 9 a.m. for 1 hour, doing a free fitness thing. I just used to do it in any old shorts because I don't go to the gym. I don't like gyms. I used to do it in my Darth Vader onesie, anything I had lying around. And then as I got a bit more into it, I thought, well, maybe I need some actual workout gear. So in between all that happening, George Floyd was killed. And I realized that I really needed community. I really needed community that kind of looked like me. And my children needed to see children that look like them, because this was something. I've lived in Nigeria. My children haven't had that. I'm half Nigerian. My husband's Nigerian. In this country, my children are Black children, and my husband is a Black man. In Africa, he's a man, and the children. And all these other things started going around my head, and I was like, okay, thank goodness I already homeschool. So then I thought, okay, well, does anybody know any Black-owned workout gear people? I would like to patronize them. Yes. And then someone tagged me in something on an Instagram account by Tina Activewear, who I am now a brand ambassador for. Yay! And I thought, oh my God, this stuff looks stunning, really vibrant colors. And I saw a picture of 3 ladies that looked amazing. And I thought, who were they? Followed the rabbit hole, found out that was Kukua and her daughter and her goddaughter running this African dance fitness thing. And I was like, what is this? I like this. Then realized I could be an instructor. Hello, no brainer. African dance fitness in this whole climate of
empowering
women, empowerment, Black empowerment. I could do it online. It fits entirely into my life. And then I just became,
and it really serves you.
I started my business, and it's been a year now. I started in January.
Fabulous. Amazing. And but it makes you, but it fits in really well with your lifestyle. But it also, what does it do for you? Because I know,
oh wow,
now that I've started doing the goddess chakra dance every morning, and it's my practice, and I just invite other people in. So it's kind of very much a 5D process, whereas it's not about money for me. It's just about doing the dance, and I feel completely different, because what I've done is I've kind of taken all the things and put all the things together, what I've loved over the years, and made my own thing. And it's my practice, and I'm getting to share it. So I feel totally empowered and in my authenticity and in my body doing it. So do you feel like, because you're doing, it's not just a workout, because it's an African workout, and that you've started, maybe, could I presence the fact that maybe you started to really kind of connect back in with your ethnicity as part of owning who you are and owning what you want to be and what your family want to be and how you want to show up in the world? Would you say that it kind of invigorates you in so many ways?
Like
health ways,
100 million, 1,000%, because it made me realize there was a lot that I needed to connect to ancestrally. I'm half white, I'm half African, right? There is a lot I need to connect to. There's a lot I need to introduce my children to. Okay, yeah, I've lived there, so what? They haven't lived there yet. Okay, my eldest lived there for a little while, but it was a toddler, he doesn't really remember. So there's actually a lot of education that we need. History is really important. We need to understand our ancestral line for so many reasons. The music that is brought into the house, the energy it's brought into the house, the fact that we had music on often before, but the way that my children understand their heritage just from listening to the music and the way that people entertain themselves has made such a difference. Part of my healing has had a lot to do with my womb. My womb has basically been sedated since she woke up and I started my menstrual cycle, and it's been a hella journey. We could talk about that in another one as well.
Another interview, yeah.
But the way that, because I've decided that these classes need to be women only, this needs to be a space where women have to talk about. Because the thing is, right, with African dancing, there's nothing that you don't shake and move. It's not modest. We're literally shaking our boobs at the camera at each other.
Yeah.
But it's like the freedom of being able to do that, because you can't like the wolf whistling thing, the walking down the street, just making sure you're a bit covered up, just in case someone decides to have a comment or throw a glance your way or anything. We don't feel safe in our own bodies, and it's not okay. So this space is very, very important for that reason, because we are able to express our bodies in such a way that we're not able in our everyday lives. And even in your normal dance or fitness class, I don't see it encouraged, really. I really don't. We talk about our wombs, we talk about our menstrual cycle, we talk about our boobs, we talk about everything that it is to be a woman, and it feels so empowering that at the end, sometimes we cry.
That's great. So you incorporate the dance with a little bit of coaching as well, and conversation and realism.
Absolutely.
And having
who we are as women, right? Is very important.
Right. So obviously working with women myself and knowing the importance of getting it right with women, and then there's the ripples effect of getting in our power as a woman. We then empower our families and our partners, etc. So great work, Vikki.
Femininity is coming into play now, because we've been living in a really patriarchal mindset, environment, the way we do everything for a really long time, where the burning of the witches is stopping right now. And we've already entered into the age of Aquarius, and the feminine aspect is flourishing. And I feel like I just want to remind women of their power. We just forgot. It's not that we don't have power. We just forgot because of fear. And we also fear. I find after we're running women's circles and goddess workshops, etc., and retreats, that women who aren't sure about joining a women's group, the one thing that maybe we can presence is the fact that don't be afraid, don't be in that fear that you're talking about, because women have because of patriarchal society, have got into themselves that they don't want to show up in front of other women. But hopefully, and we can see that is changing, and that women are coming together and doing these circles together. So the idea of being in community, if we're talking about holistic health, so being in community, back in the day, women used to have a tribe to bring up a child. So you'd have every generation that would bring up that child. And then we moved into the modern society where we all that doesn't happen anymore. So I think what both me and you are both trying to do is to presence that and bring women back into circle, bringing back women to start to talk and be honest with each other. Hence we're now having these honest conversations. And I also want to say,
that the thing about African dancing is I do the shakeout, which is used in, we see African tribes doing the shakeout, and we always go, oh wow, that looks a bit, a bit crazy. But since I've been doing it, I've realized, oh my God, it's a game changer, because what they're actually doing is they're moving out the negative energy from the body. So when you do
it in your hands afterwards,
the energy is quite amazing, and the shakeout of the when you let your whole body go, and it's very much an African tribal thing.
Chinese call it chi, some people call it prana,
right, whatever you call it, it's removing that stuck energy in the body. So I just want to move on from that a moment because of the time limit we have in this conversation. Moving on to, how do you see things progressing now in the new earth, i.e. what things are coming up that may be a little bit, let's say, out of the mainstream? People don't really want to acknowledge some of these things yet, but people are starting to talk, including Gabor Mate, about the use of psychedelics and mushrooms, psilocybin, as healing properties, because something that's happened is this pandemic has seemed to have magnified everything in life. And I see the pandemic as a great magnifier to what's already present. And what happened is that I think over the years, psychedelics and psilocybin from mushrooms, another word for mushrooms, and marijuana, for instance, are things that are always seen and deemed, illegal, which they still are. But they are starting to be seen by the mainstream, or starting to be seen by healers and people, who are renowned trauma specialists. Let's talk about trauma. There's a thing that we should be now pointing to, and having a look at what are the properties of using natural psychedelics like marijuana and psilocybin, mushrooms, to kind of heighten our awareness, to get back out of our head and into our body. Because, all the work that we are trying to do, Vikki, at the end of the day, is to get out of our head and into our body, to change our mindset, to change our awareness, and to know that there is a connection between the two. And when we talk about functional medicine, that's what functional medicine does. When we look at our gut and we look at these, we look at ourselves as a whole, back to the holistic, there is no division between the mind and body. So can you just talk to us a little bit about what is happening on the scene of psychedelics and psilocybin?
I see it as a great remembering, basically, because the information is all there, really. It all exists. There's a lot of stuff that we've forgotten because of the ways we've lived our lives, but it's all there. And I think people are starting to remember. And I think it's beautiful, like little lights are just turning on next to each other. It's really nice. This is not a short question, Claudia.
No. And we will do a whole, absolutely.
The way that it works on the brain is kind of secondary to the way that it affects our consciousness, because science doesn't even understand how consciousness works. So science can only go so far to explain it. However,
is there a way to summarize? No. Why? Okay, so let me ask you this then. Why do we need to be looking at alternative medicines for mental health? Because that's the question. So right now, when I get clients, many of my clients are on antidepressants. They go to a doctor, they get prescribed an antidepressant. The doctor doesn't really have the time. They have 5 minutes per client. They prescribe them antidepressants and they're on them, right? And it has lots and lots of side effects, including inflammation in the body, autoimmune diseases, and all sorts of other things. So what I would like you just to kind of presence maybe is, why should we be moving away from the prescription from the doctor for antidepressants and looking at and pointing at and trying natural things that grow in our environment that can have the same effects on us without the side effects?
Okay, so I want to look at it from two perspectives. The first perspective is a bit of a cynical one. However, if something that just grows like that is of such great import, that pharmaceutical giants want to synthesize it and make it illegal for other people to use, why? Why is it so important that you would do that? It literally just grows. If I had magic mushrooms growing in my garden now, am I going to be arrested? It just came out of the ground. What am I supposed to do? Because literally mycelium, if we're talking specifically about mushrooms, because there are 3 main psychedelics, classical psychedelics. But if we're talking about mushrooms, mycelium, which is basically, the roots, is under every single footstep that we take in the world. There are even some mushrooms that they discovered growing in a river, right? The first mushroom to be underwater. So putting patents and things on life is suspicious to me. The second reason is that it's been found with our limited scientific knowledge, so I've got my children in the background, that the SSRIs, the antidepressants that people are being given, and the way that psilocybin works on depression, because they've used psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression. These are people that have been depressed to an extent where they've tried so many pharmacologicals. One second.
That's okay.
Probably didn't work. Treatment-resistant depression, they've used so many pharmacological treatments and it hasn't worked, right? However, psilocybin does make a difference. They're both working with serotonin in the brain, but psilocybin has so many more components than an SSRI can even begin to try and tackle. So whereas you'll be addicted to antidepressants and these they basically mess with how serotonin is used in your brain. Whereas you'll have to be on these antidepressants the rest of your life, when it comes to using psilocybin, it seems that you need maybe a handful of sessions max.
Right.
And you're able to step back into your life. Whereas people that are on antidepressants are on antidepressants and it is just being managed to an extent where maybe they don't get to the point where they want to commit suicide.
So does psilocybin sort of illuminate or magnify or point in the direction in a way to things for people that they can actually tangibly work out, whereas antidepressants just kind of give this, from what I understand, I haven't taken them, but they kind of give a numbing down feeling.
Yeah,
whereas
antidepressants basically numb the system so you don't really feel anything. Whereas psilocybin will allow you to access those
parts of your brain.
About maybe a trauma, which is why you're taking the SSRIs in the first place.
Yeah.
It will allow you, for example, to access that trauma so you'll be able to look at it.
Yeah.
And deal with it.
Whereas antidepressants numb it.
You just don't look at it. You literally just blink it. And then maybe all the trauma is building up behind you and you never get to deal with it, integrate it.
Right. So from a Reiki point of view or a chakra point of view, it's kind of like a suppression into the lower chakras rather than, the psilocybin that's going to bring you up into the ethereals, into the headspace and try and work out what is yours, what isn't yours, and all those things. So I think it's a very exciting conversation, and I'd like to kind of, again, widen this conversation on another call, if that's okay with you.
There's one word I would leave that with, the connectedness.
Go on, yeah.
Because when it comes to connectedness, which we're all trying to find, that's another thing that SSRIs do. You can't be connected to anything when you're on antidepressant. But then the psilocybin adds the extra dimension of you understanding your place. So you can understand how you can.
It's illuminating,
connected, right? All the energies that we're talking about here. That's a very important point. But sorry. What next?
Okay, no, yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you've made that point, because there's so many things we want to talk about, and we just we can't get them all in one conversation. So just to end this conversation, let me ask you, the last question maybe. What would be the main question I should ask you? So what do we need to be, what are the questions we all need to be asking ourselves in 2022, and how can we be moving forward into this new earth?
How to find your own personal description, meaning of peace, because peace means something different to everybody. And peace is that place where you're not ecstatically happy and you're not really depressed or angry. It is amazing that we have the capacity to swing and experience all of these emotions. However, at the end of the day, we need to know where balance is. And that's where we find the calm, because we're chronically living in our sympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
Which is great if you're running from lions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who has time to digest a meal while you're running from a lion, like all the food that you've eaten that day? You're not even necessarily digesting the nutrients because you live in the wrong nervous system. But now the lion, it's not a lion, it's your boss at work, or some person that stresses you out or harasses you at work, or it's the school system because the blah, 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 or whatever. So if we can address where we live, right, and find
how we live,
I think it's where we live, because if we say where you live, because it doesn't matter how you live, you could live in a cave, but you could be stressed out living in a cave, or you could be peaceful AF living in a cave. So it's like, where do you live in your head? Are you living in your sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic? Where are you? Where is your body? Because you need to find that middle place. You need to find that peace. Because if you know where it is, it doesn't matter if you dabble in all these other emotions. You know where that peace is. You know what it looks like, and you can return to it. Because you know that 4-4-8 breath. Literally, if you do 6 or 8 rounds of that breath,
box breath,
then shift into where you're supposed to be, to rest and digest, just through breathing. We all know how to breathe.
Yeah. Well, we can do a whole thing on that as well. So that's box breathing. That's where you breathe in for 4, and then hold for 4, out for 4.
No, you're
doing 4-8, in for
4, and out for 8.
Out for 8. Okay.
Shift back into that system. So these little bits of knowledge we're all used to know about.
So in terms of just to just in terms of the awakening and the new earth, do you think that people are just catching up to the way that you're already living your life? Do you think that that's where we're heading? Are we heading more into a communal life, a more holistic lifestyle? Are you seeing that the future is about community? And when we, people are talking about the breakdown of the systems, breakdown of money, breakdown of the things that we've always known to be true, and that the way that we can bypass that consumerist sort of robotic lifestyle is to step outside of that and move into a more awakened and aware living community. So do you think living in a particular way is what the 5D is going to be all about? Do you think everybody should or could take a little part of what you already do, like or I mean, you haven't started the vegetables yet, but maybe I've got an allotment, maybe everyone should think about getting, or some people should think about getting an allotment. Is there something, what can everyone do to like get themselves into that new 5D dimension rather than the 3D? Now I know a lot of people don't even know what that probably is, and some people do, but just in a nutshell, the 3D is what we've always known. It's the matrix. It's what we've always known, and we're living in this consumer society, and we live in certain ways in concrete jungles, and we go to work and we come home again, and we go to work and we come home again. Let's sit on our computers and we do all the things. The 5D is the idea of living in community, being more aware. Money isn't really the big all end, everything isn't about money. It's about sharing and living in community and eating well and having, going back to the basics of maybe, our ancestors used to live. So do you think that that's true, or is that just my sort of interpretation of a utopia that I would like to live in?
It sounds beautiful. The answer to your first question, in that what should we all be doing, is just breathe, because breathing is the pathway to peace. And peace is the highway to heaven. Heaven is really not a destination though, because you have to live it now.
Yeah, it's a present moment, isn't it? Eckhart Tolle, present moment, live it now, right?
Literally, because in my eyes, being alive is almost, we'll have to talk about this later, but it's like the whole, being alive, from being born to dying, is just you moving through a different birth canal. You're just literally being born. Because death is it's actually a very beautiful thing, and very important. It's the cycle. We have minute cycles, day cycles, week cycles, month cycles, year cycles. Everything is a cycle, and we need to respect it. And our breath helps us get back into that natural cycle. And I swear, the breath is the answer to everything. It just is, because we can't even think properly because we're not. How are you trying to make a decision if you're not even breathing properly? So it doesn't matter what decisions you make about what you're going to have for lunch.
Yeah, and it's in the breathing. She takes a deep breath. It's in the breathing that we have the directions of where we're going. So when we breathe, we take time out, we stop, we live in the present moment, we assess through the pranayama. We assess where we're at, where do we want to go. And if maybe we can end by saying to everyone that if we all took a very deep breath and just listened to our bodies, listened to what we are and where we are being directed, then we will all be moving into this new earth with, you know, a much greater awareness and ease and grace that we all want. So maybe we can just end by saying, you know, thanking ourselves for just taking the time to just even take a few ideas of what we can do today in this present moment to kind of live, let's do it, to live a better, healthier, more aware, more in community, more in collaboration, more in society than we have done in the past. So I thank you, Vikki, or Victoria, my dear friend, for joining me in this conversation today. And I feel like we will have to expand on all of those things at greater depth in as the Awakened Healers videos are produced. I would love to invite you back on and do this again and again and again. So thank you so much, Vikki.
Thank you so much.
Love and light. I love you so much. Thank you so much for sharing, and I hope other people that are watching this get something to just think about, really, and just a takeaway. So love and light to you, and
I'll speak to you really soon.
Very soon, hun.
All right, cool.
So take care.
Bye.
Bye.